We are the largest provider of conveyancing services in Liverpool City Region, 9th largest in the northwest of England, the largest provider of criminal defence services in the northwest of England in terms of volume of cases.
Nobody, or perhaps not even you, think that one day I'm going to be a manager of other people. I'm going to manage the business process, because we were never taught how to do that.
Every partner was given a different administration role. So the partner was fee earning, billing, managing the caseload, often supporting the team and also running the business as well. And that sort of like became my focus, implementing an IT system across the business. And then from that, I realised my skill set was probably elsewhere. I became managing partner as a consequence of that, really. It's like pigeonholed, you're doing this aspect of running the partnership.
The things they don't teach you in law school. Today, we're joined by Mike Leeman, managing partner at Lamb Joynson and a highly respected specialist criminal defence solicitor with over 25 years' experience. Mike began his legal career in criminal defence while still at university in the early 1990s, qualifying as a solicitor in 1998 before becoming a partner just a few years later. He now leads one of the longest established criminal law departments in the region, a team with more than 200 years of combined post-qualification experience, providing 24 hours representation in Merseyside, Cheshire and nationally. He's a higher court advocate with decades of advocacy experience and has handled everything from complex drug conspiracy cases in the UK to other high-profile matters. He also represented a key defendant in Operation Dreadnought, the largest land seizure of cocaine in UK history. Known for his straight-talking common-sense approach and his deep understanding of digital evidence in modern criminal law, Mike also serves on the Committee of Criminal Law Solicitors Association, championing professionals working in criminal defence across England and Wales. Mike, it's a pleasure to see you.
Good to be here.
Managing partner, Lamb Joynson.
Yeah.
It's a big firm.
Yeah, it's getting bigger as well every day.
Tell us a bit about it.
Where should I start? From the very beginning?
Yes, why not?
So, for what I know, it was Lamb Joynson, I think it was, established 1821, and then we merged with Lamb, Goldsmith and Howard at some point, probably in the 1980s, and became Lamb Joynson. Many iterations over the years in terms of being a law firm, ups and downs, different types of work. I think it was quite large in the 1970s and 80s in the city of Liverpool. But as firms evolve, partners leave and retire, the firm adapts. And then probably for the last 15, 20 years has been very much focused towards legal aid, criminal and family. And then we've probably niched that even further to become a specialist B2C law firm, dealing purely with customers and consumers across all areas of law, to the point where I think as it stands now, we are the largest provider of conveyancing services in Liverpool City Region, 9th largest in the northwest of England, largest provider of criminal defence services in the northwest of England in terms of volume of cases, and quickly growing in terms of wills, probate, private client, traditional private client services, family law, and recently launched a contentious probate department as well. So that's Lamb Joynson in a bit of a nutshell. Up to 109 members of staff, and we look after about 8,000 clients a year.
Goodness.
Which is growing year on year in terms of numbers.
Now, I know you're a very modest person.
Not at all.
And I think it's fair to say that you were the leader of all this change.
I have been over the past 6 or 7 years. Certainly it's been my vision and my drive to do things better over everything we do. I'm a bit of a competitive person at heart. Big believer in winning. I'm a sports person. I like to win at things, but I like to also do it fairly and do it properly and do it the right way. I want to do it with a good reputation, a good ethos, looking after people along the way, whether that's our team, our young lawyers, our people who've been in the business for 20, 30 years, and more importantly, our clients. That's our ethos, is putting people first.
Now, I think it's fair to say as well that I remember you because we're both lawyers, when you first started.
Yeah.
And that was in about, what are we talking about, mid-90s, 1993, was it? Something like that?
It probably started in a law firm as a summer work placement in about 1993. I did a 4-week work placement at Roberts Mortgage Jones in the Wirral. But I think I first came to Liverpool in 1996 when I started my training contract, and I got shipped over from the Wirral to Liverpool. And I certainly remember you being in court and me being the junior young lawyer to be.
Young? Wow, it must be a long time ago. I'm always interested to understand what the young person was like who now inhabits this chair. So what was the young Mike Leeman like? Did he want to become a lawyer? What were his influences? What did he want to achieve?
So, yeah, I definitely want to become a lawyer. I think that was an early sort of desire of mine. I used to watch LA Law growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, and I liked the I suppose sexiness of that, isn't it? Going to court, the arguments, the law as the TV version of it is spectacular, isn't it? And it's exciting. And I was probably drawn to that as a career. Probably cemented by the fact I had 2 brothers, older brothers, who were both in the police. So I probably had an interest in criminal justice. I did my work experience at school with Merseyside Police just to get a bit of a feel for it, which I don't think you can do nowadays. It sounds a bit weird, doing work experience with the police at 16. And so, yeah, I was driven towards that. Did A-level law at school. I was told not to try and become a lawyer. It wasn't going to happen. I think it's standard in those sort of days. People try and not let you follow your dreams or aspirations and say there's different things to do. And so, yeah, I was very much drawn towards the law, criminal law interest. And I'm not the type of person who wants to sit behind a desk all day long. So obviously there's different types of law. There's the advocacy side of it. There's conveyancing, which is still very much obviously desk-based in many ways. And I knew that criminal law was probably fits my personality the best. Going out, meeting people, talking to people.
Well, it's one way of meeting people, isn't
it?
Very
much so, yeah. And once you probably have a taste of it, it's exhilarating.
Well, it was, wasn't it? It was exciting. It was a bit glamorous if you looked at the television. Because I remember watching LA Law. I think it was the first episode. And a lawyer in America gets out of bed. He's a family lawyer. I mean, this couldn't be as far from the truth for us. But this family lawyer gets out of bed. He goes straight to his gym, which is in his house. He lives in, if I remember correctly, in a condominium, whatever that was. And the thing that struck me was he then finished working in the gym and he got into a Porsche 911 and drove to his office in downtown LA.
Definitely not true, is it?
It isn't. But I remember thinking, that's the life.
Yeah.
Where, of course, it's absolutely nothing like that.
No,
you get on
like
the bus. You get on the bus. You go to work. And, yeah, it was nothing like that at all.
No.
But isn't it interesting how a lot of us, and a lot of people I speak to, because I ask a similar question, was that they were driven to do what they did because of the influence of, for want of a better word, art. And so they'd watch television and think, I quite like the idea of that. Because in my day, certainly, the careers people were useless. I'm sorry if you're still alive, my old career teacher.
Yeah,
but
100% they were.
He wanted me to become something in woodwork. Well, I said, well, I'd like to be a solicitor or a barrister. He said, oh, don't be stupid, you'll never be able to do that. Woodwork's a good thing for you, boy. We'll try that. And so it was the television, the media that encouraged me.
Definitely. And actually, when I look back and reflect, why do I still do it? Why did I stay doing it all those years? Well, actually, you realise you enjoy helping people, and especially that type of law, the type of law we do as an organisation. It's very much people centric, and it's the ability to support someone in a difficult moment in their life. And I say that across our entire business, whereas we do conveyancing and family and wills and probate. I say 99% of our clients are distressed purchasers of legal services. So coming to us, not wanting to use us, but have no choice. And so my mission is to get that person who comes to us through our door to instruct us and trust us with their problem. By the end of it, saying, I'm really glad I chose your firm to do that. I'm really grateful for the support. And it's that feel-good factor of helping someone and supporting someone. So when I reflect back, it probably was the perfect profession for me, because I've always liked helping people and problem solving and getting stuck in to resolve people's issues, and whether that's going around someone's house to fix their TV because I'm really good with technical things, plugging things in on wires and computers. I've always liked helping and supporting people. So I think a life in the law suits that type of personality, depending on what level of law it is, of course. Obviously, there's the corporate commercial lawyers, which are a little bit different. But in terms of as a people business, it's a real good environment to support and help people.
So you left school, clearly, and you had in your mind at that point, I quite like to be a lawyer, perhaps not knowing whether you want to be a solicitor or a barrister at that point, who knows. Which university did you go to, and how did that go?
I went to Sheffield Hallam University to do a law degree. Obviously, that's just part of the process. Traditional route to law, I had a choice. I was going to do history or law. I had an interest in the two of them. But the intention was to become a solicitor. So law made more sense rather than doing a conversion course and prolonging the agony. And then I stayed in Sheffield, went to the University of Sheffield for the LPC. It was the first year of the LPC, thinking how that's just changed and it's about to be phased out completely. So I was the first iteration of that. So it's interesting seeing how the SQE beds in and how that changes the way everything works, like it did for me. But I think the real catalyst was I got work experience in my first year of university with a local firm, Roberts Moore Nicholas Jones, and that gave me a very real taste of what the law is like and what it's like to be a lawyer.
Now, a lot of people watching this will say, well, yes, he got work experience. How on earth do you go about doing that today? What would you advise them? Look for opportunities. They arise in many different ways, don't they? I was lucky because my brothers knew people and they asked for favours. That's often the case. Nepotism still exists, very much so. It's who you know, what you know. Yeah.
I think that's important, networks. But a lot of firms nowadays will do internships and give opportunities and do structured placements. We've started doing it last year, which is a big success. We have a summer intern programme where it's an application process and it's an opportunity for people to experience it during the summer vacations. And in fact, out of the one last year, 2 of those became employed. So it's a good introduction to the law. It's also a good introduction for us to get people into the business. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities there to get that work experience. Firms are looking for ways to open their doors, I think, to law as a business, as a law as an opportunity, and to give back. And yeah, if you can get some experience, look for it. And persistence pays off, doesn't it? Because I've interviewed a lot of people over the last 10, 15 years, and you can tell straight away those who really are interested because they made real efforts to get the opportunities. And you ask some people, what efforts have you made? And they can't answer the question because they actually haven't. So I think the reality is, like anything in life, if you really want something, you really have to go out your way to get it and really put yourself out there and make an effort.
Things aren't going to just come to you,
No,
are they?
no.
You have to make the effort to go to them. Yes. So you're doing your work experience. Yeah. Are we in about 1993?
93 was the first summer work experience.
Now, I read something that stuck out about you in 1993, I think it was. When
It was.
It was the first time you went to a police station.
It was, not as a suspect, thankfully.
Tell us about that, because it wouldn't happen these days.
No, definitely not. So I think it was day 3 of my work experience.
And how old were you then?
I would have been 19.
19.
Okay. I hadn't even done criminal law as part of the degree. That was year 2. And I remember the then senior partner of said firm said, there's no one to go to the police station. Mike, you can go. And I was like, well, what do you mean I can go to the police station? It's fine. It's only a shoplifting. Just the client's probably going to admit it. Just go and be nice to him. Give him some I don't know, just be nice and make sure you feel reassured with someone looking after his interests.
Take some cigarettes with you.
It was take some cigarettes, yeah, and some Mars bars and Snickers and chocolate, and off I went to the police station. It was Bromber Police Station, and I remember it well, dealing with someone being arrested for shoplifting, and no one told me what to do. I just went and did it, and from then on in, I was going to the police stations quite regularly. And then a year later, I was fortunate enough to be asked by George Sale to go and do work experience at Lamb Joynson the following summer. And that turned into effectively every school, university holiday, Christmas and summer, I'd go back home to the Wirral from Sheffield, and I'd go to police stations, and I was one of the first people to do the police station accreditation as it came out. Once I realised you can't just send anyone to the police station, it's a bit wrong.
Yes, just a little.
Just a little bit wrong, and so that's how that sort of happened.
And this is definitely something you wouldn't see today. But what I'm sensing from what you're saying is that persistence early on and consistency whilst you were studying paid off, because
definitely
people knew who you were, you knew who they were, you were familiar and obviously good at what you were doing and willing to be challenged, and as a result of that they would have offered you, I presume it's still called a training contract then, was it?
Yeah, and I was told I was getting a training contract, but it still made me interview for it. It still made me interview with 3 or 4 other candidates. So I was in the back of my mind saying, well, I still got to compete for this. I've got to demonstrate my worth. And it made me sweat for a week afterwards, waiting for the outcome of that.
How kind.
So, yeah, and I was fortunate to get the training contract and start that in August 1996.
2 years of
2 years
training.
Yeah.
Lots of police stations.
Lots of police stations. I think I was the only person on call on the Liverpool side of our operation at that time, and I think I went to police station almost every day for 12 months. A lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of longer hours. Yeah. And of course, in those days, they used to interview regularly at night.
Yeah.
So you're being out to 4, 5 in the morning, and you're back in the office at 9 the following morning to deal with the clients, deal with the administration, to go to prison visits, all the things required. Type of things that quite doesn't happen in this day and age. Things have evolved for the better, I hasten to add.
Yes,
certainly.
I can imagine.
But then you lose the opportunity to build some skills and some resilience that goes with that.
Now, when you qualified, you went to court pretty early on.
Day one.
And I think it's important to say that in those days, there probably wasn't any structured advocacy training about what to say, when to stand, where to go, what was it all about. And the only way that you'd have learnt it, perhaps, is by watching other people.
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate in that respect, because I had some great mentors and great people to watch, not just in Lamb Joynson at the time. I had George Sale, who was a highly regarded advocate. He's probably one of the best I've seen still to this day in terms of how he held a court and always got his way somehow. There was an expression, wasn't it? You want bail, get sale. Was the local sales pitch and the marketing of those at that era. But then all the other local advocates in the courts and over in Liverpool as well. Great exposure to some remarkable personalities, as you'll remember well. And you watch and learn, and then eventually you develop your own style. You take the best of all those bits and see what works for you and your personality.
Well, so what was your first case in
court? First case, I went to Birkenhead Magistrates Court on the first day of qualifying to deal with an onward remand on someone who'd been arrested and charged with verdict course of justice and incest. He'd been, I would say allegedly, but he was convicted of it, sleeping with his daughter for a number of years. But he's also the main suspect in a national high-profile murder, the murder of Alice Rye. And the day I went to court, they decided to charge him with that murder. And so all the press were outside, and there I was dealing with that as my very first case as an advocate back in 1998.
Just a bit of a baptism of fire, then.
Absolutely.
The things they don't teach you in law school.
No, definitely not prepared for that in any way, shape or form. And anxiety plays a big part in everything we do. We all get nervous, and even now I probably still go to court sometimes, and you're nervous, you overthink it, and despite the fact you know how it plays out, people need to realise that is part of life. None of us are perfect all the time. We all have anxiety. We all have issues. We have imposter syndrome sometimes in relation to my position. Now, that's just part of that, and it's how you build your resilience to deal with those issues that come around it. But I'm very fortunate those early days have probably exposed me to things which you wouldn't do nowadays. But that's made me quite resilient and able to deal with probably anything, I suppose, that comes my way.
So was it crime that was your main focus when you qualified?
Yes.
And when did that change?
Yeah, it's always crime. I love doing it. I like the environment. I was good as an advocate, good following of clients, good reputation, but I was really good in terms of the process of that as well, in terms of making sure we're compliant with legal aid agency, making sure things were done properly and right, and that really helped, I suppose. And then probably as you're become a partner and you're involved in the business of law for a period of time, my focus sort of like changed with IT, I suppose. I was the IT expert in the firm, and we went very heavy in IT in 2016, I think it was. And that sort of like became my focus, I suppose, in terms of implementing an IT system across the business. And then from that, I realised my skill set was probably elsewhere, and I became managing partner as a consequence of that, really.
Now, this is very interesting because when you start out as a young person and decide that you want to be in the legal profession, either as a barrister or as a solicitor, nobody, or perhaps not even you, think that one day I'm going to be a manager of other people. I'm going to manage the business process, because we were never taught how to do that.
No.
And often, if I remember correctly, people just fell into that route because they became prominent as lawyers. They became good lawyers. They had a certain type of billing which perhaps got their attention in larger firms, and then they were promoted to a partner, or as maybe these days a director, and suddenly stopped practicing, or worse, they were trying to practice and do everything at the same time.
I think probably the worst is the common scenario, isn't it? Your caseload and also managing, and I know certainly historically in my firm in the 90s and noughties, every partner was given a different administration role. So the partner was fee earning, billing, managing the caseload, often supporting the team and also running the business as well. And everyone had a little part of that together. So it wasn't very joined up either. There's no, it's like pigeonholed, you're doing this aspect of running the partnership. You're right. Literally, you're not taught how to manage and to lead. No two ways about it.
And you are in a unique position in that you still remember, because you had a foot in what I'd like to call the old days of running practices, and you've taken elements of the old days, changed them into something new. How did you do that?
I actually don't know, to be honest with you, is the answer to the question. That's how I did it. I just knew what I wanted to do. So I just wanted to modernise my firm. It's an historic firm. It's 205 years old this year. And so I knew that something had to change. We had a retirement of a couple of partners. And I think often in partnerships, things don't happen and progress as people get towards retirement because they want to protect their position, financial, and their future. And there's no real driver for change or no hunger for it, I suppose. And I was the youngest partner in the firm, and so I obviously knew I had a long time to go and things had to change, and that was really my driver. I had to make sure there was succession, had to make sure there was opportunity, had to see it grow after stagnation for a number of years. And I suppose technology was a catalyst for that in many ways. It's suddenly opened your eyes in terms of data. I was then dealing with different businesses outside of law, IT companies in particular, we became early adopters of a lot of technology. I spent a lot of time with the development teams, beta testing a lot of product. Spent a lot of time with our marketing teams as to how they pitched themselves and how they ran their business, how they had roadmaps, how they had strategy. And I'm looking as a lawyer outside into different types of businesses and seeing actually law is also a business. And it's that light bulb moment, I suppose, where actually I need to run the firm as a business, but know what our objectives were and have a very clear vision in relation to that. So I probably hark back to my belief mechanism. And my belief mechanism is effectively that customer service is absolutely key to everything. Because as a criminal lawyer, you know this yourself. Your reputation is how you deal with those clients. You're dealing with difficult clients in impossible situations every single day. You know that a good criminal lawyer is honest, gives straight talking advice, manages expectations, is good at giving bad news, not just to the clients, but to their families when you're dealing with serious criminal offences. So you've got a good skill set there in terms of dealing with people, first and foremost. And then also, I've always been a bit of a fan of consumers and what's a consumer want, what I would want. So I've done mystery shopping over the years as part and parcel of a side hustle. So I get to see what good experiences are like. And so I suppose from my point of view, I knew that law wasn't fit for the modern world, the way it operates. I felt law was very much like going to the dentist or going to the doctors. It's quite clinical. You go and see a lawyer and it's intimidating. It's not very accessible. It's hard to and scary to reach out to a lawyer for help and assistance. So I suppose it was putting all that together. How do we become a consumer-focused law firm using amazing technology? And then how do we service that consumer in a better way? Well, to do that, we need really good people who are invested in, who are supported in, who understand what our objectives are and buy into it. And obviously our objectives are very, very clear as a firm. We are absolutely passionate about providing exceptional customer service and that client journey from A to B. So it's pulling all that together into a very clear focus and then having a strategy behind that to get us to that and go in that direction. So everyone goes together.
As the junior partner in a practice that you've spoken about, where a lot of the partners are older and less willing to take risk because they're going to retire. This is a common feature.
Very, very common, yeah.
Certainly, maybe not so now, but there weren't any wonderful structured pathways in those days for the older members of the profession to retire and take with them what they felt was theirs.
Yeah.
So there must have been a moment when circumstances were hoisted upon you, when you had to decide, okay, there's a risk here in me taking this forward personally, and then you decided to do it. Now, a lot of people wouldn't have decided to take the reins, to transform a traditional business into a modern operating business as you've done. And it takes a degree, I believe, of entrepreneurship and resilience to do that. How would you explain to young people that transition between practitioner who's a good lawyer and businessman who hadn't been taught how to be a businessman in those days?
I think the first thing that springs to mind is I was definitely an accidental leader. That wasn't my aspiration. That wasn't my ambition.
Good title for a book.
Yeah.
The Accidental
I have been
Leader.
thinking about my book, by the way. Several iterations of it. But yes, accidental leader certainly wasn't on my roadmap or where I wanted to get to. But then it became obvious that someone had to do it. And I suppose when I sort of like fell into the role of leading the firm, I suppose it was coming up to our 200th year anniversary, so it's quite a significant milestone. It's just before COVID came along as well, which obviously had some impact in relation to that. It's a case of, well, I don't want to be the person who brings down this firm and got to leave it in a similar position. I don't want to be the person to mess it all up. So that was my initial source of motivation, not to be the person who made it fail. But then that evolved quite quickly to actually, well, let's not just make it stay as it is. Let's make it a better proposition. Let's leave it in a better place. And that very quickly became my motivation. I can make this better. I can improve things. I can really drive this forward to be a leading firm in what we do, especially our specialities we have. And that will give us opportunity to grow people, to develop people, to invest in people, to look after more clients, to do that in a smart, modern way. And that just became a bit of a driver. And then that's evolved as well still. So now my biggest kick is not just growing the business and representing and looking after more people. It's the investment in youth and opportunities. And there's an understanding as well that law is a business. And I think that's something we're really keen to teach at Lamb Joynson. So we're lucky we're part of a large organisation called LawNet, which gives us sharing resources and development pathways and training, which ordinarily probably isn't thought of in a law firm. So we're teaching our young lawyers about law as a business, about business development, about marketing, about personal brand. It's not all about the law. And in fact, it's all about the person. And people come into law, but actually may not necessarily want to be lawyers. There's different pathways. And as we grow, there's operations, there's marketing, operational functions in the business, there's business development, there's client liaison, there's a relationship managing, there's so many different parts of the law firm, which there's opportunities for many different people, not necessarily those who want to be focused on the law. People don't know it, and that's where we're opening doors, opening opportunities. So I'd say, yeah, you come in to be a lawyer, but you just don't know where that journey's going to take you. It can take you anywhere.
There must have... I want to talk about sleepless nights. Not going to police stations.
I'm a dab hand at sleepless nights.
But in the transition from practicing lawyer to engaging entrepreneur, modernising the practice, I'll call it, rather than entrepreneurship, you must have had some sleepless nights.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest sleepless nights comes around people, bizarrely. Because I think when you're in a leadership position and when you're very early on in that journey, you understand people's behaviour, but you take it personally sometimes. I think that's it. And then you think, oh, someone's leaving the business, they're letting me down, so to speak. And that's just natural. And then the more you're involved in that scenario and then the more you become confident in relation to what you're trying to deliver, you understand that everyone's journey is different. And everyone has their own motivation for why they do things and why they don't do things in some circumstances. And then you tend to understand the position more, and all you can do is the best you can do in terms of someone's investment in them as a person. And I'm now very big believer in this. I'll do everything I can to invest in a person, knowing that at some point they may go elsewhere, which is absolutely fine. And there was a time when you'll take that personally because you're spending that money training someone, you're investing your time and your resources, especially in legal aid terms. It's a very small pot. And then suddenly they'll go in to join a CPS in criminal law, local authority and family law. And so you felt like you were doing something for no reason at all, no gain. But ultimately, I find it really powerful now to be part of that person's journey. So if I've done all I can by that person, done my best by that individual, some will stay with you and support you. Some will go elsewhere, but they'll remember your input in their life. We all remember our best teachers, don't we? It's very important. So I think I'm always going to be giving back and always have an input in that person. And what we found in having that approach and having that belief mechanism is that often when people do leave and go elsewhere to new pastures, they talk really strongly of their experience in us. They're our best recruitment vehicle because they're talking well of us. And often they come back as well. And they come back having learnt other things from a different firm and got new skills. So it's keep investing in that person, keep on developing, keep on giving them opportunities, never stop. That's what I say. I think it's really important.
Back in 2016, you describe the change in your business as a digital first pivot.
Very much so.
What was that like? What did that entail? What was the environment like? What were the difficulties in implementing these things? What was the pushback from people with whom you worked?
So we we'd use bits of, like all firms, bits and pieces of technology, but nothing major in terms of investment. I think because of the size of our firm at the time, it's a risk, because obviously back in the day, software was capital expenditure, recurring license fees, continuous investment in training. So whilst we had systems in place, they probably weren't fit for purpose. I think that's fair to say. And then the world sort of changed because software as a service came about, and that made it accessible. And so suddenly you could go on to monthly subscriptions for software, you could dip your toe in the water, which probably opened the doors for a lot of firms in terms of digital transformation. And so the opportunities came around with some new software, which was cloud-based, so it was agile. And basically, because I'm an early adopter technology in my personal life, I like technology, understand it, I get it. We just basically went all in on that. That was the mission. Let's completely change the way we do everything, and let's look very much to the future. Let's go on a digital transformation journey, seeing the benefits of it. And also, we were probably small enough to work. I think there was about 27 members of the team at that point, including partners. So it's quite a small organisation, but there's still a major change in mindset, and it's a case of leading by example. Now, I got my hands dirty. I took myself off the tools in terms of legal work for 3 to 6 months. I sit there in the team, supporting them, showing how to use technology, how to get the best out of it. But I also enabled me to really deep dive into the technology and what it's capable of, how we could utilise it better. And that really was probably how it all came about in terms of that, because once I knew how it worked to a deep level, I could drive it, and people could see quite quickly the benefits we gained in terms of the way we grew. Slowly at first, but there's still growth, there's still opportunity. And then we started to get data out of it, because you've got, obviously technology gives you data, and then you start to understand how to use your data. And it just catalysts from there, really. But yeah, it's change management is difficult in any organisation. But if you've got people who are leading it and are passionate about it, and it's all like evolved to the point where we became such an early adopter of a lot of technology, client onboarding, for example, cloud-based software, file sharing with clients digitally. We were leaders in the field in relation to it so early on that sort of journey. We became known as a digital firm, and it's part of our ethos and it's part of our quality policy that we introduce new technologies once or twice a year. And so the firm and the people within the firm just understand that's who we are. We'll try some technology, fail fast, try something different, and everyone gets on board in that journey eventually, because we're driving it, and that's who we are. That's part of our makeup. So it was a challenge and difficult, but we were probably lucky because of our size at the time, and we remained agile as we were growing.
Of course, there's an elephant in the room here. And that elephant, in my opinion, is artificial intelligence, whatever that means. And my feeling is that this is going to be one of those moments which transforms the high street legal landscape in ways that none of us quite appreciate at the moment. So this is an opportunity. How have you implemented it so far?
We've used it probably the past 4 or 5 years. So we've been, again, early adopters in relation to it. Yeah. So many different ways we've used AI and robotic process automation, which is akin to AI. Quick wins in terms of client onboarding. That process is pretty much automated. So a client decides to instruct us, they're sent out our mobile app. That automates the sending of client care documentation, automates the request for ID and for funds, and the client self-serves themselves in relation to that. So that process went from taking probably up to an hour in terms of manually loading that onto the system. The RPA does that in seconds. So we save 45 minutes there in terms of each member of staff, so they can do more in terms of client interfacing and talking to clients and doing more important jobs which add more value to the business. We use a lot of AI in terms of property reports, is probably a prime example. So we do a large volume of conveyancing transactions. So we use AI in relation to production of property reports. Once the lawyers have checked titles and done all the due diligence, that will pull all that information together, and it will produce the property report for them with their input, and they're saying yes or no in relation to it. But that means we can probably do a report on title in a straightforward freehold in about 20, 25 minutes rather than 2 or 3 hours. So there's massive savings of time, which just makes you more efficient. We use Copilot quite a lot as a business tool in terms of managing the business, in terms of using it to look at our data, in terms of producing documentation, in terms of developing policies and processes, doing a lot of heavy lifting in relation to that aspect of the business management side of it. Use it to help analyse our data in terms of our financials, in terms of our leads and our conversions and all the business tools that go with it. And in fact, last week we just introduced a phone system which uses AI to transcribe the phone call live as it's happening. So that gives us the ability to see the sentiments of the caller as to whether they're happy or engaged, which obviously is great in terms of our new business teams and how we can train and develop staff in relation to that and not missing opportunities. But then similarly, it's time saving for the lawyer, because the lawyer is then getting a digitised attendance note produced by AI, as well as a full transcript, as well as the audio recording of the call, which means their attendance notes in relation to that are really good, which saves them time, assists them and supports them in terms of something which is very laborious. And we probably all know as lawyers, the hardest thing in being a lawyer is doing good attendance notes, especially from telephone calls, because you probably missed half of those in terms of attendance notes. But actually it's really important, because not only is it good in terms of file management, having good detailed notes, it's good from a billing purpose if you're still doing time recording, because you're going to capture more. And then in terms of risk and compliance, often complaints which are only increase the ombudsman and that side of the business, you may not have the relevant information, even though you've had those conversations or clients being told something. If there's no real evidence of it, then suddenly we've got the evidence which will back up what's being said and what advice was given. So there's lots of ways to support it. And I say, in terms of AI, it's not going to replace us in any way, shape or form. What it's going to do is support us, make our jobs easier, make us more productive. And productivity is really important, not just in law, but I think in this country generally. Productivity is an issue. And ultimately what happened is people who can't use AI be the ones who are left behind. I think that's the real skill, is we have to empower people to use it, show them how to use it, and let them get the benefits of it. And if you're not going to be able to use it, you may find yourself struggling in the future.
I think there are at least two different viewpoints about what AI is going to do for lawyers. I think there's the view that it will be a support for lawyers, as you've said, to make life easier for them and more accurate and more supportive. And I think there's another view, which is it is actually going to replace some strata of law practice. So I'm going to suggest that in the future there's a very strong possibility, given the right data, which LLMs don't have at the moment, that there will be an element of sentiment and advice given by the LLMs which would normally be given by solicitors. If that's true, if that comes to fruition, which is what I think is going to happen, what difference do you think that might make to the legal profession?
I don't think that will happen, and I'll tell you why. People deal with people. People want to be reassured by people. Maybe a bit different in commercial circles to some extent, and I have seen some examples of consumer behaviours changing in terms of their use of AI, which I'll tell you about because I think that's really interesting. But just in terms of what we do, we are people-facing business. We're dealing with those people who are stressed. So we've got lots of tools in terms of our client-facing side of the business, how we communicate, how we support them, all built part of that client journey. And we assumed wrongly that a lot of that, like in-app communication, messaging facilities, would really, really reduce the amount of contact we have with our clients. We've seen a massive uptick of people wanting to speak to our team and lawyers, massive increase of our phone traffic, massive generations not being keen to wait for information or wait for a response to an email or to a message. They'll pick up the phone. So there's always going to be that human contact. And I think if you are a people-focused business, which we are, we can really support clients better. So we're going to use those tools to support our clients better, to spend more time building relationships with our clients, more time supporting the clients, more time reassuring them, more time giving the information they need and they want. And that's what AI is going to do. I think on a consumer-focused basis, they're not going to be content with speaking to a robot, not going to be content with advice from an AI machine. And think about when you phone your bank. If you go to a call centre, not in this country, are you happy with that sort of service? And so, yeah, I think people will pay for proper advice from proper human beings there to support them, who can give empathy, give them the reassurance and give them the appropriate advice.
Now, I'm going to give you an alternative. I'm going to be devil's advocate here. And I'm going to say that what if a company like Amazon decided that it wanted to offer legal advice rather than anything more than that as part of its Alexa? If Amazon decided to commoditize the legal advice that we've given for 40 years at an early stage, let me give you an example. It's Friday night and it's 1:30 in the morning, and a drunk husband comes home to find that his wife has locked him out of his own house. And he wants to know there and then, am I allowed to break the window and gain entry, or do I have to stay outside? What should I do next? Now, I guess that the majority of lawyers will be asleep at that time of the morning because things have changed since I was young. And I can just see them being able to pick up their phone, asking someone like Google, Amazon, or any of the others that are out there, what do I do next? And with a degree of certainty, these new applications would be able to advise them. What do you think of that as a proposition?
Well, they could do that now. And some people do that now. And as I was saying before about consumer behaviour, we see a lot more content being sent to us by clients who are probably doing their own legal research and their own legal work, using Copilot or ChatGPT to send us lengthy messages, lengthy emails, saying, what about this, what about that? And we're having to guide them and say, actually, not that aspect of it.
But that's wrong, isn't it? Because hallucinate, I think it's what, 73%?
It makes stuff. I use it in my personal life all the time about things, and I have arguments with the LMM, and I get it wrong, and I actually get it to apologise to me, which is highly amusing. So you do know it's wrong, and that's part and parcel of it. But then that scenario you just described, that person's going to be in an emotional state. They're going to make a rash decision about going to ask the device, and they're probably going to do something that leads them to be arrested or to need proper family advice after the event, because we're human beings and we're emotionally charged and we make emotional decisions, not logical ones in heats of the moment. So I think, yes, you're right in some respects, there is access to information, but people will still do stupid things. People will still need a human being to support them through the process and hold their hand. So all it will do is, it means that, for example, in terms of my firm, it means we could be able to support more people, because we do a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the administration work, which means we spend more time with our clients and look after more clients, and that's our aspiration as well. So yeah, it's an interesting argument to see where the future goes, and none of us knows where the future is going to go, but provided you're adapted and evolving, we're going to be fine.
Well, I'm going to write you down as an AI optimist.
110%.
And I'm the opposite. I think that artificial intelligence will make enormously bad changes to what we do. So perhaps we should make a date, if we're still around in 5 years, to have this conversation again in retrospect to see which one of us was right.
I mean, Skynet will be here then, a Terminator, so
yeah,
that's where we're heading.
Yeah,
but no, I still think, in some areas of law, I think it'd be more of a challenge. But ultimately, a lot of transactions in law, whether it's personal or business, is all about emotional decisions or feelings of angst or feeling of being wronged. And you're going to need a human being along that way to hold your hand. I think people, even now, we pitch our business that we're not the cheapest in some of the services we offer, but we're offering a premium service because we know that 33% of the public will pay for better value. And and we believe of what we deliver and how we look after our clients, and we're very proud of that. And so you're always going to attract those type of clients. Depends what your business model is, I suppose.
Bell, Lamb and Joynson have won a lot of industry awards, haven't they?
Just a few in the past few years.
Tell us of some of those.
Oh my word! Where do I start? Our conveyancing team has won probably a regional or national award every year for the past 4 or 5 years across various awards. Our private client team has won some national awards. Criminal team has won awards in terms of how they operate and how they process. So yeah, we've had lots of industry recognition. We've won awards which are purely based on consumer feedback alone, such as the Esters. We've won a fair bit of industry recognition, which is really, really important, and it's important for a number of reasons. But the primary driver in relation to that is our team are really good, and we invest in our team, and recognition is important. And actually, for them to know that not only we think highly of them, our clients think highly of them. We've had 2,500 5-star reviews, so there's evidence of that. But actually, once we tell the world what they do and how they do it, there's that recognition from the industry. Actually, you are good at what you do, guys. You are on the right path. Keep working, keep driving forward, keep trying to be a better version of yourself. They have a massive value to our business, and it's all about the internal optics of it for us. And also externally, it's good as brand awareness. And for clients as well, seeing that we are experts and leaders in what we do.
You have a number of offices now.
Yeah.
Maghull, Ashton in Makerfield, Liverpool, Wirral, and I think are you opening another one?
No, we just opened. So we had Maghull and Walton Vale, but we just opened one in Liverpool City Centre in January. So come back into the city for the first time in like 15, 20 years, I think.
So a lot of the mood music in law management, for want of a better word, and I've heard it for years and years, that there are those who believe that you're better to have one location and make it bigger, and there are those that believe it's better to have multiple locations that are a bit smaller. And I guess that from what you're telling me, because of the importance of human connections with local communities, that's how you see the way forward.
Yeah, I think there is definitely two schools of thought in relation to that, and we as a firm have been through both iterations. I think in the late 90s, there was a clamour to close offices and centralise back office, which was more difficult back in the day because digitisation wasn't there. From our perspective, we're growing as a business, looking after more clients, and because we are very much B2C, I think part and parcel of that is being there and present, having a physical presence, not just in terms of accessibility for clients. I mean, we can do all our legal work without ever seeing a client, including criminal clients. Obviously, we see them at court, but we can do all the preparation without getting into the office. Conveyancing is process driven. We never have to see the person. But despite that, we still have across our office estate around about 1,000 people a month visit our offices. To drop documents off they can sign electronically, to come in for a chat, to ask for a face-to-face appointment. So you have to offer a combination of everything, because not all clients want digital, not all clients want to have a faceless organisation looking after them. And it's that when we're doing work, obviously we're now a regional law firm, a high street, probably more regional now to some extent, and we've got a bit more of a national footprint. But it's reassuring to know we do have an office network. If things go wrong, people want to be able to go and resolve those issues. And then that's part of the problem with the world nowadays, is what happens when something goes wrong. So who do you speak to? How do you escalate something? So that's really important as well to, and I say this, we're not perfect. We're human beings. We all make mistakes. Things don't always go according to plan. And I always say, judge a business or an organisation, how they deal with it when it hasn't gone right and how they put things right. I think that's really important as well. So we've got the right processes in place for that eventuality as well. So it's reassuring, but again, it's marketing as well, because the more visible you are, and we are B2C, but we can't afford to go on TV to start advertising on television because of the nature of the work we do. We have to find different ways to get eyes on our brand, and actually having a presence in different markets. Not only expand your digital footprint online in terms of how visible you are in terms of SEO and Google, but also to naked eye, subconsciously, driving past, they've seen us, they've heard of us. So when a client is, for example, conveyancing is probably a really easy example. I want to buy and sell my house, I need a lawyer. They're going to be recommended probably by different people in that chain, the estate agent, the mortgage broker. They might go online and Google price comparison sites to get 3 or 4 or 5 quotes. So they'll probably end up with 6 or 7 options in relation to that. So I think it helps if they heard of us. They can see what people say about us online. They know where we are. They know we're local, can support them. So in terms of us converting that into a client, I think it increases our chances of doing so as well. Very much so. So it's and also we need space. We have people, and people have to work from somewhere, even in this age. And culture, environment is important. And as we grow, our footprint gets bigger. We can't make the current offices bigger where we are, so we have to find different ways of increasing our workforce and finding somewhere for them to sit and be part of our team.
So over your practice life so far, you've seen massive changes in the way we do law.
Very much so, yeah.
I'm going to ask a difficult question.
They've all been difficult, Charles.
In 5 years, where do you see yourself and law?
I see myself still doing what I'm doing, for certain. We'll just do more of it. I think we will be bigger. We'll be looking after more clients. And that is the strategy, and that's the desire. We want to help more people. We think consumers get a raw deal sometimes in terms of services they receive, not just in law, but generally speaking. And you put people first, do the right thing, then naturally you'll grow your business. But also if you do that and people feel supported and doing the right thing, it just helps in terms of everything you do. So yeah, we'll definitely do more of that. But then there'll be a lot more structure in place, because as we've grown, one thing we've learned is law as a business, you need different people with different specialisms. And that's why I'm really lucky, is I'm probably the idiot in the room. I'm surrounded by real talented people who are good at what they do. Good people are good at finance, people are good at operations, people are good at marketing. You know, I'm just a person who steers the ship and gets it all going in the same direction. They're the people that have been a real value to the business, so I see we'll have more of that at an operational level, more non-lawyers in our business, running the operations, allowing the lawyers just to be lawyers. So I think the biggest lesson we learned very early on is lawyers shouldn't be dealing with new inquiries. Lawyers shouldn't have their time going out doing business development. Yes, do the brand personality development and be involved and get out there so people know who they are. But they're better off being lawyers. That's what they came into the profession for. Give them the tools to be better lawyers. So I think as a business, we'll evolve in that respect. So yeah, 5 years, we'll be the same. I think other law firms may have caught up by then, especially doing what we do, that B2C piece, because it's consumer-led, isn't it? Consumer-driven. And our evolution have regard to a client journey. What does a client expect? How do they want to be looked after? How do they want to be able to access legal advice? It's instantaneous, isn't it, nowadays? You're talking about AI being instantaneous, but Amazon, you can order something at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's delivered at night. So you have to find ways to allow the law as best it can provide that to a client, because that's what their expectations are. Clearly, it's not going to work the same way, but you have to find ways of servicing that client in line with their expectations. And I think law firms who don't grasp that may struggle. They think we're the law firm, we're the lawyer, we do things our way because we've always done it this way. Those are the ones who will struggle. So I think that's how I see it. There's going to be a very clear divide between law firms who are very well run as a business, will survive and thrive. Those traditional law firms are going to struggle a great deal. They're going to have succession planning issues, could not be attractive, and not going to have ways of getting people into the marketplace either, because that's not what people want. They're coming from universities. I went to university. It was a dive. You know, no good resources, no good facilities. I was surprised when my eldest, we went around to university seven years ago. He's 25 now. So the facilities they have are phenomenal. Now, they're just state of the art, aren't they? So they expect that when they come into the work environment to have similar sort of facilities. So if you're still operating at a high street level with no investment in your facilities, no investment in your culture, you're not going to attract talent either. So you will eventually no longer be relevant. So you have to keep on moving forward.
Mike Leeman, optimist.
Oh, absolutely optimist.
Thank you very much for coming today.
It's been a pleasure.